I slammed a stack of papers onto the table and broke down, unable to contain my emotions. I hit the secretary call button and demanded she find Ethan. I said. "Which Ethan?" "William," the secretary asked. From the finance department," I barked, and within 5 minutes, I was staring at a bewildered Ethan. "So, Ethan," I began, "our project is on the brink of failure. Time is almost out. If I disappoint the investors, I'll let all of you go. Please, take this into account and inform your finance department. Starting today, you'll assume the duties of the chief economist. Understood? Of course, with a salary raise and all privileges intact, but your responsibility increases tenfold. I understand that this sudden appointment might stagger you, but there's no time. You have 2 days to find the error in the calculations and provide me with flawlessly calculated data. Ideally, after your work, the project will be streamlined and optimized. And now, go. I won't keep you." Ethan nodded and briskly left the office. He had no desire to engage with an enraged boss. I've always had a strict, explosive nature, demanding towards subordinates, even towards my ex-wife, Sophia. We once started a business together and in 10 years built a thriving enterprise, which I now led. I possessed all the qualities of a successful entrepreneur: decisive, hardworking, bold, goal-oriented, and fair to subordinates. I knew my explosive temperament could hinder our common goal, so I tried to restrain myself as much as possible, avoiding crossing the boundaries of reason. My wife helped me a lot with this. Beautiful, always well-groomed, and elegant Sophia knew her worth. Once, when I was away on a business trip, I called her and asked her to attend a meeting in my place. "Sophia, it's crucial for us to be present at this meeting. We're one of the leading companies in the city and must defend our interests, especially since our competitors will be there. It would be better if I could come myself, but I definitely can't. The investor meeting is scheduled for tomorrow, and I can't cancel or reschedule it," I pleaded. "Don't worry so much, dear," Sophia reassured me. "After all, this is our joint business, and I'm not a stranger to it either. So, don't fret, everything will be fine." But there, Sophia met a guy. He turned out to be an incredibly attractive man, and his charm enveloped Sophia. Inviting her for coffee, he confessed that he hadn't had breakfast and simply wanted some company. No discussions were expected, just a desire to avoid lunch alone. The guy, his name was John, talked about his life, about buying a house in an upscale neighborhood, about his ex-wife, and his reluctance to live abroad. Such openness made Sophia inquire about his personal life. Learning that he had been single for 4 years, she joked about his magnificence and ability to find a partner. In response, he asked for her opinion about him, which made her feel like an inexperienced girl. And soon, leaving the bathroom in his house, she smiled, forgetting about her mundane life, immersed in the happiness of a woman in love. When I returned from my business trip, I immediately noticed that something was off with Sophia, but she stubbornly remained silent, brushing off my questions. I assumed she was simply tired of managing the company and suggested she take a break. Sophia gladly agreed. "It would be wonderful. I've been wanting to get away for a few days myself." "Yeah, of course, dear, you deserve it," I said. Sophia left for a week, but I never suspected that instead of choosing a sanatorium for relaxation, she opted for the countryside house of our main competitor, Igor Yegorov. Several months passed. Throughout this period, I was occupied with work. I couldn't understand what was happening. Profits were declining, new deals were made on unfavorable terms, projects slipped through my fingers, and someone clearly orchestrated inspections. I struggled with all my might, trying to get everything back on track, but everything slipped out of my control. One day, I stormed out of the office in a fit of anger and collided with a poorly dressed woman at the doorstep. "What's going on here?" I shouted at her. "Please, help," she said, reaching out her hand. Despite my irritation, I pulled out a bill and handed it to her. To my surprise, the woman recoiled and waved her hands. "It's not at all what I meant. I'm looking for work. There's a notice on the door that they need a cleaner here." The stranger, with a determined face, quickly mentioned the company. "I just wanted to ask how to find it quickly and who to talk to there." "Really?" I chuckled. "And here I was thinking you were a beggar." The woman blushed again. "Don't be embarrassed," I said. "Go up to the 5th floor. You'll find my secretary there." Tell her I hired you, she'll get you sorted." The stranger smiled. "My name is Amanda." I smiled back and walked on without looking back. My thoughts returned to my problems, and I forgot about Amanda. But then something happened that threw me off track. In the evening, a close friend called. "Aliston, William, I have news. A businessman named Dick wants to take over your business. Have you heard of him? Where did you get this information?" I asked. My friend sighed sadly. "Your wife is to blame for that. She's been seeing this businessman for a while now. I have photos, sometimes in the car, sometimes in restaurants, sometimes at his house." I slammed my palms hard against the steering wheel and cursed loudly. Then I fell silent for a while, trying to figure out what to do next. For over an hour, I sat in the car, attempting to grasp how to proceed in such a situation. I had long suspected there was a traitor among my team, but my wife. "What was lacking for you, Sophia?" I asked, addressing the invisible void. However, there was no response. I didn't start a scene. I simply told my wife that I knew everything and demanded she leave. Unlike me, Sophia staged a real hysterical spectacle, claiming it was all my fault, that she didn't feel like a woman, that my work was more important than her. And eventually, she confessed to deliberately altering the data in the documents, making it impossible for anyone to find errors in the calculations. When she left, I, wounded and hurt, roamed the apartment, feeling a heavy pain in my heart. In the morning, I summoned the employees and ordered them to check all the documents, to search for errors in the calculations. "And no one leaves their workplaces without my permission," I shouted. At 9 in the evening, I decided to check on how things were progressing and called the entire economics department into my office. The employees arrived, but they couldn't say anything coherent. They hung their heads, eager to leave and get through this moment. Despair was written all over their faces, and unable to contain myself, I threw a glass against the wall, shattering it into pieces. Surprisingly, that outburst of anger seemed to balance my inner state, and looking at the frightened employees, I began speaking calmly and quietly. I explained the situation, emphasized their responsibility, and warned about the company's possible bankruptcy. The new cleaner, Amanda, almost imperceptibly started cleaning up the shards and wiping the floor. She listened attentively to my words, trying not to miss a single detail from my address to the team. When I fell silent, my chief employee stood up. "William, let me understand you correctly. Today is a tough day, but I'm confident we'll handle it. I suggest everyone leave and rest today. Tomorrow we'll start a bit later to prepare. We'll make every effort not to let you down." I nodded and allowed them to disperse. The secretary gathered the documents, took them to my office, placed them on the table, and hurried to leave the office. I was the last to leave the room, but the next morning, entering my office, I was astonished. In the boss's chair, at the desk, the cleaner was asleep, using the same documents that had caused so much trouble as a pillow. "What does this mean?" I exclaimed, shocked by such behavior. Amanda raised her head and smiled. William, what's happening here?" I continued to wonder, feeling lost. "Are you okay? How can you behave like this?" "I am cleaning," she replied, smiling. I fell silent, simply lost in bewilderment, not knowing what to say. During the conversation with Amanda, her words surprised me greatly. She mentioned finding errors in the project and proposed 2 options to optimize it to attract investors. I listened in silence, finding it hard to believe what I was hearing. To delve into such matters, one needs an economic education, I thought aloud. But Amanda confidently replied that she had 2 degrees, including economics. This unexpected information stunned me. I was shocked that the cleaner possessed such serious knowledge. Seeing my surprise, Amanda sighed in embarrassment. She stood up, but I persuaded her to stay, taking a seat in the chair beside mine. I asked her to tell me about herself. It turned out her childhood was tough after her father's death and her mother's departure. Left in her grandfather's care, she graduated from Moscow State University. After university, her life became challenging, marriage, family conflicts, but she still worked in her husband's family business. Amanda finished her story with a sigh. However, noticing William's interest as he listened attentively, Sophia continued, "Then it was like an unpleasant joke. Once I caught my husband with a young secretary, and I left him. I tried to find work, but the reputation created by my husband's family ruined my chances. Money, which was already scarce, ran out, and I was left with only the option of becoming a janitor or a cleaner. That's when I saw your advertisement. That's all. I overheard your employees discussing things, and after your conversations, I decided to help. And you fixed everything in a couple of hours? I asked. No, over several nights. Amanda smiled. What? You didn't sleep? I exclaimed. Amanda shrugged. I don't have a home. I spent nights at the stations, and when you hired me, I slept here, on the sofa, in the reception area. The guard allowed me to stay. He's a wonderful uncle, said Amanda. Amanda, my employees will gather soon. Will you tell them the same? I asked, again. Amanda was surprised. No, I mean this, pointing to the stack of papers. Oh, sure, Amanda smiled. I'll tell and show them everything. William stood up, gesturing helplessly. Unbelievable, I've never heard anything like this. Anyway, Amanda, before the employees arrive, let's go to a fashionable clothing boutique and pick something for you. You shouldn't appear in front of people in a cleaner's uniform. Besides, I'm offering you a new, highly paid position. Amanda looked at herself. All right, I wouldn't want to be mistaken for a homeless person. Excellent, exclaimed William, smiling. And half an hour later, I couldn't take my admiring eyes off Amanda's transformation. She looked incredible in the blue trouser suit, perfectly paired with a chiffon blouse, I told her. She smiled shyly and thanked me for the purchases. Before heading back to the office, we stopped by a cafe for breakfast. I then thoroughly enjoyed watching the surprised expressions of my employees, seeing yesterday's cleaner Amanda transformed into this stunning professional businesswoman. We settled into her new office, and she eloquently explained the calculation problem, behaving calmly as if she had been working here her whole life. In the evening, I approached her. Amanda, let's go home. Home? She was surprised. Yes, I nodded and took her hand. Days passed. We returned from the investor meeting filled with enthusiasm. Our project emerged victorious, taking the lead and surpassing all our competitors. The employees welcomed us with applause, and I organized a celebration. 3 months later, our wedding with Amanda brought together everyone sincerely wishing us happiness. How do you like this story? Let's reach 1,000 subscribers. I love you.